Thor is up against forces he cannot possibly understand right now. And not only has he had to create a new weapon to wield in this fight alongside his trusty hammer Mjolnir, he must also seek out new allies. And the big question is why he just sought out one of the most powerful X-Men of all time, Storm. What is up, Earth's mightiest subscribers? It's Blerd without fear. Welcome back to the channel. All right, today's video, I'm going to be talking about Immortal Thor #3, written by Al Ewing with art by Martin Coccolo and color by Matthew Wilson. This issue, we see Thor go on a metaphorical and quite literal journey. In the previous issue, we knew he was going to be falling prey to the All Sleep, which technically he does in this issue. He does actually go into a deep slumber, but thanks to Loki, who is now the Talesmith, the god of stories, and so on and so forth, Loki was able to actually place Thor in a particular place where he would be uninterrupted and time would flow incredibly different, allowing him to go through the All Sleep, all while not necessarily losing much time back on Earth. No time has passed, so all the worry that Thor had at the beginning of the issue, where he worried that Utgard Thor would somehow have had the time to go back and wreak havoc on Earth, or that any of his other enemies would have time to just run roughshod over Asgard and the other 9 realms in the Marvel Comics universe, that was not the case. Thor has literally lost not even so much as a single second of time, which is pretty handy because he's going to need a lot of it. Loki is trying to prepare Thor in the best way humanly possible, and as we've seen in the past couple of issues, Loki has made it pretty clear that there are going to be instances where Thor is going to need to be tested, and not only will he need to be tested, he needs to be tested by Loki herself. And Loki is not going to be putting on the kid gloves just because she loves her brother and just because she knows that Thor needs to win in order for all things to turn out good. Loki still has a job to do, and whether or not she wants to be good or bad, she knows in certain instances she's going to have to be bad. And Thor, he now knows that no matter what he does, the all power, the Thor force, the Odin force, any of it, none of it is going to be able to aid him in the ways that is needed in order for him to take on the threats that he's going to need to take down. With all the pieces on the table moving against him, Utgard Thor and the Wheel, Utgard Loki, as well as various other unnamed threats that we're not aware of at this moment, to face these new threats and not rely on the all power within him, he's also going to have to create some new weapons, something he actually more specifically does to help him get around the riddle that Loki has challenged him with, and he winds up taking his trademark helmet and reforging it into an axe. An axe he refers to being as keen as Loki's own mind. So you just imagine, however witty, however smart, however keen one might imagine Loki is, this axe is supposed to be equally as sharp. It does have some of the other properties that you would likely associate with Mjolnir. He's able to throw it the same way he can throw Mjolnir, and in return at his command, it's also able to channel Thor's lightning the way Mjolnir often does. And we also see it referred to as Tormod, the first of 3, letting us know that Thor is going to be creating more weapons down the road. So that is something else to be keeping an eye out for. But for right now, we don't really know much else about this new axe, but so far, it seems like it's going to help him get the job done, but it's going to take more than new fancy weapons for him to win this fight against Utgard Thor and Utgard Loki. He's also going to need allies. And while I think the list of people that you could probably imagine Thor is going to reach out to at some point, I think it's safe to say that, you could probably go through your usual suspects. We know that Loki will very likely be there in some aspects, not always as his enemy, but also maybe even sometimes as his ally. However, we could probably also expect characters like Beta Ray Bill. We could even also maybe possibly expect characters like Jane Foster reassuming her mantle as the mighty Thor. And while there's another character who I'm pretty sure is going to surprise a lot of people if you're not as familiar with the X-Men's history with Thor, another character is gonna be Storm, a character who Thor calls out by name in this issue because he knows the old tricks are not going to work. He's gonna have to rely on his own might and abilities, and one person he knows he can rely on is Storm. He recognizes Storm and her power, even going as far as to referring to her as the goddess of thunder. I saw a lot of people on social media who were very surprised by this. They were just completely blown away, not even recognizing that these are all things that no one should be surprised by. I say this because, well, for one, Al Ewing is writing the story, and if you have been following my channel for any stretch of time, or may the gods help you, this is your first time ever checking out one of my videos, and if that's the case, and you're still here by this point, you know what you should be doing? You should be clicking that subscribe button and tapping that notification bell. That way you don't miss out on any of my coverage of comics like the Immortal Thor, as well as other videos that will help you learn more about the character Storm, everything that's going on with the X-Men and other stuff going on with Marvel and DC and wherever else. All of that said, anyone who is familiar with my channel and has followed my various videos about Al Ewing's X-Men Red as well as his Sword series, one thing you will probably take note of is he is a huge fan of Storm. Al Ewing is what I like to refer to as the Uber ally. He is the guy who literally, in his first ever comic series with Marvel Comics, created and predominantly all black Avengers. He is one of the few white writers who will do anything with characters like Monica Rambeau and Blue Marvel, and one of his favorite characters to work with on the X-Men side of things is Storm. As a matter of fact, he has been giving Storm the ultimate queen treatment, I would dare say, for the last 3 going on 4 years. Now, another reason why this is happening is because this is something that's actually been kind of loosely teased at, but Thor is reuniting the Thor Corps. This was a all-Thor team-up from the 2015 Secret Wars event that pretty much showcased all the characters you might imagine. They were all various versions of Thor, some of which you actually could find in the normal Marvel Comics 616 universe, but there were also tons of other characters who were literally just made up for that series. Your main characters like Thor, Beta Ray Bill, Jane Foster as the Mighty Thor, Storm, who has operated as a sort of Thor in the past. If you go back to 1985's Uncanny X-Men Annual number 9, there was an incident in that annual where Loki had manipulated a then powerless Storm. She had lost her mutant powers due to prior events where she was shot by Forge's mutant power nullifier weapon. Loki uses this as an opportunity to give her a hammer of her own called Stormcaster, but this was done in an effort to manipulate her and use her for his own ends. Hence why in this issue where Thor mentions that he needs to speak to the goddess of thunder alone, citing that Loki needs not be there because Loki and Storm, while they haven't danced with each other very often in their Marvel Comics history, they still have history and none of it is good. And Thor knows the only way he's getting Storm on board for any of this is if he goes and talks to her by himself. But yeah, the Thor Corps had all the faces you would normally associate. Thor is trying to reunite that Thor Corps. Now, while I don't think he's going to be bringing back the Secret Wars version of it per se, I think what's going to happen is going to be a more tapered down version of it. It's going to be the characters who are actually readily available at that time. So yes, as I stated before, Beta Ray Bill, Loki, Storm, Jane Foster, so on and so forth. He's going to bring those characters together because while Thor himself was able to stand up to the might of Utgard Thor, it took all of his power, using all of the Thor Force, the Odin Force, all of it, the all power within him. It took all of it, and it practically broke him to the point that he had to go to sleep. He had to fall into the all sleep. That is how much power it took for him as one person to take down Utgard Thor. Paraphrasing a quote from Demolition Man, it's gonna take a Thor to beat a Thor, and he's gonna need a lot more of them. Every last single one of these people has operated as a Thor in some capacity or another, whether big or small. All of them possess a power very similar to Thor himself, and that's what he needs. He doesn't need the all power. He needs Thor's own might, and each of these characters has that ability, and Storm chief among them. Honestly, the reason why Thor is actually even putting respect on Storm's name to this level is not even just because she wields a power similar to his, it's because he also recognizes that the power she wields is incredibly potent. Now, while that's said, and I have seen a lot of people say that, oh, you know, if they include Storm in the series, maybe she could show Thor how to truly use his powers. I have said before, and I will say it yet again, I think that would be literally the dumbest thing ever that that Al Ewing could do if he did it at all. Because let's be honest, while Storm is an Omega level mutant, Storm has limits to her capabilities. Like, most people don't want to talk about those limits. A lot of people think that Storm just creates lightning and thunder and rain from out of nowhere. That's not actually the case. She pulls all these things from a specific area. It's not to say that she just makes these things appear out of thin air. It means she's drawing those things from other places, meaning that she is actually taking the natural resources of another area and putting it just somewhere else. Thor does not do that. When Thor creates lightning and rain and thunder, that is him actually creating it from out of nowhere, because he's using magic to do so. If anything, Thor could teach Storm how to wield the natural magical capabilities, the natural magic connections that she has. That would be something to see. I would actually be more curious about that than I would be anything else. With that said, I don't feel like anyone should be teaching anyone anything. They should be spending more time trying to figure out how to stop Utgard Thor. But anyway, that's everything I personally really wanted to talk about with Immortal Thor number 3. This issue was great. There were a lot of Al Ewing doing his normal thing. Like, if you were familiar with his Immortal Hulk series, Immortal Hulk delved into all kinds of crazy mystical types of things, and it was just wild and all over the place. And Thor, Immortal Thor, mind you, is doing no differently, digging into actual like Nordic and Viking myth and legend and even religion to that degree. The whole title of the story being The Riddle of Raido, which is supposed to be about a mythical or fantastic or cosmic journey. And with this case where Loki mentions that, well, this is the rune flipped, and the rune flipped can mean kind of the same thing, but on a much less comforting level. And Al Ewing is leaning us into that, and I love it. But anyway, if you enjoyed this video and you want to see more like it, hit that subscribe button and make sure you tap that notification bell so that way you don't miss out on anything. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch this video, and until next time, let me know what you thought about Immortal Thor number 3. Keep it plus ultra and sound off in the comments.